You are listening to Viewpoints from PlaceCloud. Cultural researchers tell stories of places from around the world. For the full multimedia experience and to support the creators you enjoy, visit placecloud.io.
Hammersmith Bridge has quite a horror film repertoire. If you're into black and white, artistic, psychological horror, then check out Roman Polansky's 1965 film Repulsion, starring Catherine Deneuve. The film centers on a weekend in the life of Carol, a young French beautician played by Deneuve. Carol is left on her own in London when her sister goes away with her boyfriend. As the hours pass, Carol's fear of men and her constant objectification morph into a psychological torment that leaves her utterly terrified and incapable of moving. Hammersmith Bridge plays a symbolic role in Repulsion, as Carol crosses the bridge several times on her way to work. The first time she does, the bridge is simply part of her routine, but later in the film, we see her increasing fear and paranoia projected onto this path. In the second time she passes the bridge, there's a car crash in the background, foreshadowing her own breakdown, and you can see her fear as she passes by, trying desperately not to look at it. Incidentally, Deneuve returned to London 15 years later to be in the fashionable horror film The Hunger, which starred Susan Sarandon and David Bowie as well, and she said that she remembered crossing Hammersmith Bridge best from her previous film. The bridge also appears briefly in the opening credits of The Satanic Rites of Dracula, a 1974 horror film that pits horror legends Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing against one another for one of the last times in horror history. The film is a corporate twist on the Dracula story, where the real villain is a group of people funded by a mysterious company aiming to unleash a biotoxin on the world. The bridge only appears in the opening credits as we watch the silhouette of Dracula slowly fill the screen, visually casting a shadow over all of London. A more light-hearted horror film featuring Hammersmith Bridge is the 1967 horror It, also known as Curse of the Golem. So long as you don't take the film too seriously, it's great fun and still hits the horror high notes. The main character, bumbling museum assistant Arthur Pym, played by Roddy McDowall of Planet of the Apes fame, discovers that one of the statues in his museum is a golem. That is, a mud being who's enchanted to life by the use of a Hebrew prayer. Pym takes control of the golem, initially to make his life a bit easier, but as he goes mad with power, he uses the golem to kill his rivals. The first time we see Hammersmith Bridge in the film is when Pym takes his crush Ellen, played by Jill Hayworth, to a cafe on the south side of the bridge, hoping to turn a friendly coffee into a date. With the bridge behind them, Pym asks Ellen, "Would you believe me if I told you I felt I could do almost anything?" Ellen dismisses it as a joke, but Pym tries to convince her, pointing to the bridge and saying he could knock it down in an instant. Ellen seems upset and confused and leaves immediately, but that night, Pym orders the golem to use its unreal strength to destroy Hammersmith Bridge. When she discovers the bridge has collapsed, Ellen becomes frightened of Pym, and the shock makes him realize that the golem is dangerous. In an attempt to rid himself of it, he orders the golem out into the Thames to stay beneath the waters near Hammersmith Bridge. But the next day, the defiant golem is back in the museum, soaking wet. The scene is both funny and chilling, as Pym has now, like Dr. Frankenstein, lost control of his monster.